illness, he took spinal fluids and bloods and saved them away in a biobank, froze them, deep freeze. So that way, when research really happens, we can start doing it quickly. And this is starting to build up all over the world. We're encouraging as many people in different countries as possible to start getting together international biobanks. So that way, when we do have research, and we do have funded research, that we can pull all these specimens together from all over the world and really get some answers. So when Dan Peterson began, and actually even till, as we speak, probably within the last 6 months, all of his information is on paper. So he's not computerized. He wasn't computerized. So everything's on paper. So no one's really studying the data. You can't. I mean, you have all these charts, chart. So now we have a process, and we have a data platform that's called OpenMedNet. And this OpenMedNet system is a platform, an open platform that I'm going to go over in a little bit with you because I encourage you all to sign up for it when it's open to all patients. The purpose of this is for the medical records to enter your medical record, laboratory results, symptoms, how you think you got it, how long you've had it, different questions, so that way we can pull hundreds of thousands of data points together from all over the world and really take a look at it. So the data platform is already created. We're just opening it up for patients to enter data, but it's open already for doctors to enter data. And doctors like Dan Peterson are taking literally their patients' data and uploading it into the system so we can massage it and get some results out. Because I really think some of the answers are in the data. It will at least focus us on a path where research should happen. Because so many of you and so many patients I talk to have their own ideas of what could be causing it and certainly what helps them. So we want to know, and we want to know what helps. We want to know in general what helps. So we're going to pull all this data together, and this is how we're going to do it. So this data platform, it'll bring patients together by them entering their what helps, what doesn't help, the stories. It'll bring researchers together, and it'll bring clinicians together to really post all the patient successes that they've had so we can pull all that data together. One big, large database internationally. Open database. It's open to researchers. It's open to patients. It's free to patients always. So this particular, I have a sign-up outside if you did sign up for the newsletter. And if you haven't, I encourage you to sign up for the newsletter because once this is open, an open platform, which allows you to enter your own data, we will let you know by the newsletter where to click on and how to enter your information. It's total privacy compliant. You can choose or not choose to be part of research. You can just use it for your own medical data. And I don't know about you, but I have about a foot of medical data of my daughter that when I was going to a doctor, I had to organize on Excel spreadsheets and bring in, and the doctor still didn't really want to look at it because it was on paper. But if they want to look at anything that I didn't put on the spreadsheet, I have a foot long of this paper. But anyway, if you want to use this as your own medical record, that you can go into any doctor and call it up on the internet. Here's your medical record. You're welcome to use it. It's all free to you. So if you choose to join in the research, then you click the box that says research. Totally compliant. It's not your name that goes. It's your information. And we are encouraging hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, there's millions of people out there with these illnesses that we want to get all that data together. And we will be doing that because we're in touch with many, many organizations, support groups around the world, patient organizations around the world that we will be rolling this out to in 2 to 4 weeks and asking them to encourage as many people, healthy and otherwise. So if you're here and you're here an advocate, a caregiver, we're encouraging healthy people as well because we're comparing healthy versus ill. We want to do those comparisons. But this is a platform like it's changing history. We're going to be able to look at hundreds of thousands of data points and get some answers here. It leads to research, it leads to answers. So when we had this meeting, so they sat 2.5 hours. I was a fly on the wall. It was the most incredible thing I'd ever been to. All of these researchers and doctors saying, okay, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? They actually wrote down, like whiteboarded, 34 to 35 different research things that they really felt that should be looked at to get this going. This is really how NIH gets a group together to look and start solving illnesses. So then we took that list of 35 and put it on pieces of paper and had people vote. So you had these people vote, okay, what's the top 10 list of research projects that we should do first? Because obviously it's going to take funding and we need to focus this down to a list of things that we could do. So the first one that came up that they voted on was a clinical trial of rituximab and Valcyte. And not to get too technical here, but in Norway, 2 oncologists, Dr. Mella and Dr. Fluge, had found that when they gave 2 of their patients rituximab for lymphoma, Those patients also had MECFS. Their MECFS symptoms were so dramatically improved, unbeknownst to them, they were treating them for lymphoma, that it was so big they couldn't ignore it, so they started and got into the MECFS world. So they started giving this to patients that only had MECFS and didn't have lymphoma, and found that the few patients that they gave it to, about a 60% response rate. Well, this is huge. Nothing's been around that's helped symptoms whatsoever. Why does this even work? Rituximab killed your B cells. So something must be going on with B cells with these autoimmune, with these neuroimmune illnesses. Is it autoimmune? I don't know if it's autoimmune. Something's going on with B cells. So if getting rid of B cells improves symptoms, what's going on here? So obviously it's led a whole another path of research. And now Norway has raised funds by crowdfunding and by the government to do an actual clinical trial on rituximab on about 140 patients. The UK is raising money to do the same thing right now. And we're not specifically raising money for it. If we were funded and somebody was funding it, we would start it here. But we would do it with rituximab and Valcyte, which is an antiviral. So there's some studies being done. It's a 15-month or so treatment regime, up at the Open Medicine Institute, where we fund the research at. They're already giving probably 30 to 40 patients are on rituximab up there. He's the only, Dr. Kogelnik is the only doctor, I think, in the United States giving it right now. But there are patients coming from all over the world to actually start on rituximab, and they've had some response. Not everybody. There's still non-responders and responders. Have to study why some people are getting better and some aren't. Dr. Kogelnik. Number 2 is this International Neuro-Registry and Biobank. So we're collecting specimens, and we want to collect specimens. And this particular study, hopefully, is going to be funded very soon. We have some people that are interested in funding this. We want an international biobank. So we want biobanks, meaning gathering information, gathering blood, gathering spinal fluid, gathering tissues from patients who have these illnesses, and putting them aside in a biobank, deep freeze, so that way when these research projects happen, we can call up the criteria that we're looking for, and then we can start the research. This is really important to be able to do research quickly. Protein analysis, we're going to be studying the proteins that they find in different protein substances that you find in the body with people with neuroimmune illnesses compared to people who are healthy. This will be a big study of looking with blood specimens and looking at different proteins. Efficacy of current drug therapies. There's people that are being treated for different things, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. There's Ampligen, who's been given to people with chronic fatigue syndrome. But there's been no clinical studies of proof or percentages, but just people have been given some different treatments that work for some, don't work for others, and we're hoping to be able to do some actual clinical trials on those. Immunologic biomarker study. This is something that the whole community is looking for. I want to have a test. I want to know what I have. In order to do that, you have to really start studying at the molecular level. So you have to look at in this case, the B cells, the T cells, the natural killer cells. These are white cells in the body that fight infection. But you have to look at it at the real basic molecular level to be able to find out, is something different in these cells that's going on between people who have neuroimmune illnesses and people who don't, people who are healthy or have other things. Is there anything common between the people who have neuroimmune illnesses? Is there things that stand out between fibromyalgia and MECFS? Are there things that are happening that are different? So what we do is we will test 1,000 or so patients. We know what their symptoms and criteria are, and they'll be studying these cells. We bring in the top people in the world to do this. There's a top scientist in Italy that studies B cells. There's a top person in Sweden that studies the natural killer cells. We will be bringing in the top people in the world to do this. Now, this one is number 6. However, we had a funder who wanted to fund genetic studies. So this is ongoing right now, and we'll have some results at the end of the year. This is really studying patients that have diagnosed MECFS to see if genetics has anything to do with their illness. Now, the person and group that's doing this is Dr. Ron Davis at the Stanford Genome Center. This is the guy who was the director who mapped the human genome. So those are the people that we're funding for this type and level of research. They're the ones who started all of the genetic studies. So what are they going to be testing? They're going to be taking patients that are, in this case, diagnosed MECFS. The funder who funded us, Edward Evans Foundation, they funded this wonderful $1 million study that we're doing, but their interest is MECFS. But really, people who have MECFS, 70% of them or so have fibromyalgia. Most of them have chronic pain. It's studying not the diagnosis, it's studying at the genetic level of people who have these symptoms. So one of the first things they're doing is the whole genome sequencing. This is a huge amount of data, huge amounts of data. So it's being done on 8 patients. HLA gene study, human leukocyte antigen. These are genes that are involved with the immune system. Something's wrong, something may be happening with these HLA and the immune system. The immune systems are not functioning as well as they should. We're going to be studying about 800 patients. DNA methylation. Epigenetics, genetics. People have asked me about epigenetics because epigenetics is the expression of genes. And really what happens in many illnesses is you're born with your DNA. So that doesn't change. It's in all your cells. It's not going to change. There's nothing you can do to change your DNA itself. But the gene expression, what genes are turned on, what genes are turned off, those things are affected by the way that we live. They're affected by viruses. They're affected by toxins, by environmental type of environments, by social environments. These are the things that are turned on and off and happen for the good and the bad of the way that you live. So things are going on in the gene expression. If there's this is called methylation that we're going to be studying. Once a gene has a methyl group on it, so they call it methylation, it doesn't turn on or off like it should. They're finding out, a couple weeks ago there was a report about cancer, that they found that in half of the cancers they were studying, they studied 7,000 different types of 7,000 people, they found that half of them had a DNA mutation caused by some type of virus. These are mutations that happen that affect the genes, and you need to look at what's going on with the gene expression. So we're going to be doing some big gene expression studies. What genes are turned on and off, and why. This one we're going to have results on by the end of the year, and I'm really excited about it. And as soon as we have results on it, I'll be letting people know by way of my newsletter and social media, and you'll be able to know what results come out of it. Some other ones that are on the list: nutritional environmental contribution. Again, whatever you eat, however you live, how is it affecting actually the gene expression? How is it affecting the symptoms? Comprehensive viral testing. There's been a lot of comprehensive viral testing being done. This is an additional study. Dr. Lipton from Columbia just reported last week, some of you might have been on the call, that they were studying MECFS patients, and they found, really in the spinal fluid, they found no pathogen evident in the spinal fluid, no pathogen evident in blood at this point in time. They were studying about 460 or so patients, samples that were collected and in biobanks. They found no current evidence of pathogens in the spinal fluid or the blood. And then we're going to be studying some natural and over-the-counter substances. We have one going on right now with a study called Moringa alifera. It's a natural substance that anecdotally a few people have been helped, so we're going to be doing some studies. As we find more of these natural substances, we'll be doing more of these studies. So, we're here to relax, we're here to enjoy. So I'd like everybody, if you're comfortable doing, just close your eyes for a moment, right where you are. And I want you to just take a deep breath, as deep as you can take, so it really pushes out your abdomen. And when you let your air go, I want you to purposely relax your shoulders and relax the muscles in your neck. And do it one more time. Take a deep breath, so it increases pushes out your abdomen. And when you blow out the air, relax your shoulders, think about it, move your neck, and relax your muscles in your neck. And now you can open your eyes. And if you want to stand up and stretch for a minute, or you just want to stretch your arms for a moment and just don't hit the people next to you, go ahead and do that for a moment. If you want to stand and just move around for a moment, and then we'll get into some other information.
What part of your body is in pain? What part of your body is in pain?
Yeah, that's right.
It is a new day. I wish
All right, so let's come back. Let's come back. So, what else is being done? The CDC has actually funded a study, and this was the most exciting thing I heard, that the CDC has actually funded a study. Regardless of what it is, the CDC has actually given money for a study. So it's actually been a year already. It's been going on a year already. And what they want to do is they want to find out from a few of the top scientists, clinicians in the United States, how are they diagnosing people with MECFS in this case. This is the CDC's CFS group. Chronic pain group, actually, the CDC chronic pain group, focusing on MECFS and neuroimmune illnesses.